Welcome to Spark Sessions. I'm your host, Sonya Locke, and this girl is on fire. Today's guest has built her career at the intersection of finance, culture, and advocacy. Jessica Velazquez is a CPA, CFE, and a principal at BeachFleischman, where she leads their cannabis practice. She's also the founder of Indiva Advisors, the first Latina-led CPA firm dedicated to the cannabis business. And she serves on the board for the Minority Cannabis Business Association and is the director of community engagement for the Las Vegas Association of Latino Professionals for America. Her journey began in the conservative halls of the big four firms like PwC and EY, and later in corporate leadership at Zappos and the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas. But in 2014, Jessica took a bold leap into an industry many considered taboo, cannabis. She has since become a nationally recognized authority on compliance and tax codes while championing social equity for women and minorities left out of this $26 billion market, and legitimacy to communities that history has tried to silence. Jessica, thank you so much for coming. I mean, the minute I met you at EY Strategic Growth Forum, you stood out among the thousands of people there. And I am just so incredibly blessed to have known you. And I'm so impressed with everything you've done. I mean, you are just a champion for women, for Latinas, and just so smart. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming. And cheers to all and to many more wonderful accomplishments that you're going to have.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sonya.
So I always like to start off with like the first spark, like, like what is your roots to rise? And especially with you, because culture means everything to you, and like where you came from and what your early influences and stuff were that shaped you to who you are today.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm a first generation Mexican American. My parents immigrated here in the late 70s.
Oh, wow.
Born and raised in Chicago. So the city of broad shoulders is where I grew up, on the south side neighborhood called Little Village, or La Villita. So it's predominantly Mexican neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
I always tell people, like, you don't have to know maybe English to get around. It feels very much like Mexico. We still have a lot of culture there. Fun fact, it's the second largest grossing revenue district for the state of Illinois.
Wow.
Outside of the Magnificent Mile.
Wow.
So a lot of people don't know that.
No.
But there's a lot of business, a lot of culture, a lot of family and tradition coming out of that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So second of 8. So I have 8 siblings.
Oh, wow.
Played a big role, I would say, in helping my parents as they were doing their entrepreneurship journey.
So you come from parents of entrepreneurs, or your parents were entrepreneurs as well. What kind of business did they have?
They had a clothing business.
Oh.
We started very humbly in a swap meet. And by the time I got to high school, we had 10 stores in Chicago.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So I always say entrepreneurship is like in my blood. It's the first memories I have of really kind of helping my parents in the business and just kind of learning everything about it.
Yeah.
So,
and I bet community is also, I know it's very important to you. Like, I mean, you're in charge of so many different associations, and that's a big factor of who you are today, is that community-led purpose, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel my humble beginnings is what keeps me going. It keeps me rooted. Mm-hmm. Life is tricky, as you know, and it has a lot of winding roads. But the source of truth will always be where I came from, and that is that little, neighborhood in the south side of Chicago. It's still home for me.
And how'd you end up here in Vegas?
I know. My family, with my then husband and kids, brought me out to the desert 20 years ago. Can you believe I've been here 20 years?
Wow. Wow.
So 2 decades next year. And this is home for me now. Vegas and this community has really uh, embraced me. And I feel like that's where I got my second win, so to speak, like coming here and learning about the new city and, cannabis that
Yeah.
came to be. And, I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah,
No,
love
that's
it.
one of the things I thought was so brilliant. Like, how did you come up with the idea for your business? Because, you grow up in outside Chicago, right?
Yeah.
So very different. You come from clothing, not
Yeah.
cannabis. And then you went to like all the big accounting firms. I mean, you were very well known, not only through the traditional accounting, but you also headed Zappos and the Cosmopolitan. So what got you into finance?
It was that entrepreneurship journey with my parents. I
Yeah.
think I knew pretty early on what I wanted to do in life. So I knew it was something to do with business. Uh, but it was around the age of 15. So I was in high school, and my parents got audited by the IRS. And so they were pretty scared.
Yeah.
I think it's a scary thing. It's like going to the dentist or something. Statistically, people are
Mm-hmm.
afraid of the IRS or, financial issues. And so for them, it was pretty daunting. I just remember them being kind of worried about what was going to happen. Um, but I grew up in the business. And the fact that I served as translator for my parents for most of my, young life really put me in a position to actually talk to the IRS agent.
Oh, wow. At what age?
15.
Oh my gosh, at 15, you were talking to the IRS auditor?
That was my first IRS audit.
That had to be scary.
It was, I think, for my parents. I didn't know anything else. So to me, it was just like, here's a bunch of questions, tell me the answers. And we're trying to figure out sort of where the money is going or not going. And so I was able to answer like those questions that talked about like POS and sales and how do you do inventory and what's your operating procedure for keeping receipts and cash. And the agent was so surprised that this young girl kind of knew all of the answers and part of them too, translating for my parents. But he told me, he's like, you have a career here.
Yeah.
Like, this. And if this is a passion or something that interests you, I'm telling you, you have a career here. And
That's
so that's where it
amazing.
all started.
That's amazing that an auditor is like actually your mentor almost.
Yeah,
To say,
absolutely.
go do this. This is, where your skills and your knowledge lies. And also too, translating. That's a big part as well. Like I have a lot of Hispanic friends.
Sure.
And they're like, it's the way they communicate. I can't really know them that well because I don't speak their language like they do. And there's certain words and stuff like that. So it's very frightening them having to translate in a scary situation like that. I mean, what would they have done if they didn't have you?
I'm sure they would have figured it out. My parents are extremely resourceful, but it was good to have someone that they trusted, right? Like
Yeah.
me, right in the middle. Like, hey, what is he saying? Hey, what does this mean? And I certainly did my best at what I could. But that was really when I knew that this was something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
More outside of the finance, it was really just helping people in a situation that was scary.
Right.
That is what I knew I wanted to do, to help people that found themselves in those situations and didn't maybe know what to do.
Yeah. And break down the complex into something more simple and tangible.
Absolutely. And something scary to be not so scary.
So let's talk about like the breakthrough. And I mean, like when I first heard of your business, I thought that was the most amazing thing ever.
Thank you.
Is, actually because with the legalization, I mean, the cannabis industry is not like a dispensary. It is like everything from the processors to, the marketing people to every single layer. And it's not federally regulated with the tax codes. And so tell me how I guess your knowledge and stuff got you to where you said, hey, this is an industry that I want to help.
So I got my undergraduate degree in accounting. And again, kind of coming back to this IRS story, I knew I wanted to go into taxation or focus on that. So I went and got a master's in taxation. Then I got my CPA a couple years later and spent a good part of my early career in public accounting. So you mentioned I worked for Big Four, EY, and PwC. So I knew corporate finance. Specifically, I knew corporate taxation.
Yeah.
And that was really what started all of this. I left public accounting a couple years later, spread my wings a little bit. And then I took on some industry jobs. The last corporate job being the tax director at the Cosmopolitan here in Las Vegas. But prior to that, I worked for a company called Shuffle Master. They are the inventor of the automatic card shuffler you see in every casino around the world.
Oh, yeah.
Publicly traded. I helped open up 6 foreign offices in the 4 years that I was there.
Wow.
And we did so great that we got acquired.
And
that was in 2013.
Yeah.
So at that time, I just decided to take a break. It'd been a couple years kind of running, the corporate gig. And I had 2 young children at the time, my twin girls, Maya and Nayeli. And so it felt like a good time to take a break, just kind of step back, enjoy some of the other things on my bucket list. And one of those was moving to Mexico. So
what part?
It is a town called Cuautla. It's about an hour and a half south of Mexico City.
Okay.
And I have family there. So I picked up my girls and we moved out there and we lived in Mexico for about a year and a half.
I bet loved it.
They loved it. I loved it. It was good to reconnect with family and come back to the culture. But during that time, that's when state legalization started to happen here in the US for cannabis. I mean, frankly, some of the first cannabis bills started passing in 2010, 2012. So in 2014, when Colorado, Washington, and Oregon all legalized adult use, I'm in Mexico, like seeing all of this on the news, reading everything that was coming out about it. And that's really when it dawned on me. I was like, this is it. We are seeing movement finally in an industry that's been taboo. It's still federally illegal, but movement on the state side to action and put this thing into the marketplace, into an official regulated marketplace. And that's when I knew, Sonya. That's when I knew. I was like, this is what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be the cannabis CPA.
Yeah.
And really dig into this. I've always been passionate about the plant. My personal opinion, I think it has a lot of medicinal use. Whether you use it for that or in a recreational fashion, it's, I think, helping in some way, shape, or form. And really, again, this taboo, illegal, underground industry was finally coming to the light.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to be a part of it.
But there's so many complexities too with it. I mean, like even payroll, right? Because they can't have like the bank accounts and they can't have that. And like the tax code has got to be so different because it's different in every state and every country. And it's huge. How did you manage to tackle all those?
A lot of research. The time in Mexico was a lot of time off. It was a lot of free time. I got to be full-time mom to my twin girls, but all this extra time I had to do something with it.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of really dug in to cannabis. Again, learning everything about it on the tax code side, talking to early, industry leaders at the moment, even regulators. And when I knew that this is what I wanted to do, I went to my governing boards, the people that oversee my CPA license, to determine what was the box, what's the sandbox that I needed to play in.
Yeah.
So I went and wrote a letter to the AICPA asking for guidance on how to work with clients in this industry where it didn't jeopardize my license.
Right.
So I got a lot of great feedback from both the AICPA and the Nevada Society of CPAs that gave me the playbook essentially and said, you are open to service this industry as long as you still have and follow the ethical standards that we, govern and oversee the licensing. And that to me was like the green light. I was like, that's it. I'm ready to go.
And there probably was no one with your credentials digging into that. I mean, you have very good credentials from the corporate world and the gaming industry and so many different other, industries that you've worked in, to be able to come to this industry that's taboo to where, you could change it.
I think that's what I needed at the time. Just something different, a real challenge. I mean, the fact is there was no instructions when this thing started 10 years ago. We had to write the playbook as the industry was opening up and new markets were going online.
Yeah.
So it's
I mean, 2013, that was really at the beginning of the stages.
Yeah.
What do you feel like the time being a stay-at-home mom and being in Mexico added to you professionally?
We learned so much from our children. There's a lot of curiosity, specifically at that age when we moved. They were 10. So a lot of curiosity, a lot of trying to understand what the world was to them. And I could see that more closely now because I wasn't bogged down with work.
Right.
This is just me and them spending quality time 24/7. And that was really special.
Yeah.
I think it's always good to see sort of the light in their eyes, and it's a reflection back to you.
Yeah.
Well,
like I said, what you created was very revolutionary. And you probably had to have that time to get that creativity of that pause to say, here's a solution.
Yes. I don't think this happens if I didn't have that, for sure. I could tell you that it would probably have been, the same old, right? Maybe finding the next corporate job or the next corporate opportunity, because that's what I had known, at least for the first half of my career. But the space and stillness did allow for just to look broader and look bigger, look outside of maybe things I wasn't seeing beforehand.
Yeah. I was very brave. I'm very proud of you. So
Yeah,
cheers again
thank
for
you.
that.
Yeah, cheers to that, love.
To say, I'm going to figure this one out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about, founding Indiva, first Latina CPA firm dedicated to the cannabis industry. I mean, like I said, there was nothing like that. Tell me about what it does and who you represent, I guess, to some extent.
Sure. So coming back from Mexico, again, I was pretty clear what I wanted to do. And over the next year, again, a lot of investigation, more research, reaching out to regulators and the boards. But once I had the green light, I knew that this was a business. I had took on my first consulting client in 2015, right here in Nevada. One client led to another. And that led to the creation of Indiva Advisors in April of 2016. So for the last, couple of years, decade or so, I just focused on serving the cannabis industry. I knew that that was our niche. I didn't want to just open the floodgates to everybody else. It was going to take full-time focus to get this going with this specific niche, where, as you mentioned, every state has different regulations. Even the application process was different. The structuring was different in every state. So there's a huge learning curve in that. And that just had to be sort of my time. And I knew I couldn't focus on any other industry. Like, this was the one. I got to tell you, at the time, I would say a couple of my true close friends and mentors thought I was crazy.
Oh, I bet. I bet. Because, I mean, it's a very, people don't, especially coming from the South and stuff where there is no legalization.
Yeah.
They're thinking, what are you talking about? Like somebody just selling like weed or something like that, but it's not. And it's very complex.
I think that's what it is. It just has a bad connotation,
Yeah.
right? The stigma. Um, and so people didn't really understand it. And they're like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? You're about to throw away your career to something that we don't have. Uh, there's no roadmap. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Um, but I think that challenge, even kind of that they put in front of me, was like, no, I know there's a business here. I just got to figure it out. I
Yeah.
don't know like all the ways, but I got to get going. I think the saying is like, you got to build the plane while you're flying it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
And you're not just like doing somebody's taxes, like you're consulting with them because there's so many regulations, anything from like I said, the banking and the payroll, but then
It's
financing.
accounting, it's fundraising primarily in this industry because again, it's federally legal, so traditional finance mechanisms
Yeah.
are not available. It's mainly private money. So, entrepreneurs need to go fundraise. And
Right.
that's a different advisor that they need on their team to help them do that.
Yeah.
So, a lot of advisory. Um, I came from a gaming background, another heavily regulated industry. So I understood sort of all of that regulation and the implications it has on your day to day operations. I don't think that's something other CPAs came to the table with.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So it just, again, it felt like a very natural fit for me. And that's was just proven by the success of Indiva.
Yeah.
We had a great tenure. We had an amazing team. Really, again, learning everything that there was to be about cannabis and how to run operations.
And like you said, you started when it was like Colorado and Washington. Now I don't remember how many states have it now. Is it 26 or so?
Over
That's
30
over 30
states
states.
that have adult use programs and over 40 states that have either adult or medical use programs.
Wow.
I believe at this point there's only 4 states that have neither.
Wow.
So it's pretty much the whole country.
Yeah.
I know that more than 70% of Americans want to see legalization at a federal level. So we're waiting to see what happens.
Well, because that would change again, right? I mean, because right now you're having to deal with every single state and different regulations. But if it went federal, then you'd have also changes regulations.
Absolutely. I mean, think of other regulated industries, more specifically like pharma and
Mm-hmm.
tobacco, where there's specific agencies that oversee those types of businesses. I would imagine something very similar would happen to cannabis at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
How did you finally get your CPAs from these big things to actually join you? And where you kind of spoke where it wasn't taboo anymore.
Yeah.
That'd be hard getting some qualified people to work underneath you because you're large. You're not like you were small. I mean, you got acquired, I guess, with a much bigger firm. But I mean, that'd be hard breaking that through too.
It was for sure hard at the beginning because, like my mentors, people were like, "What is this? I don't know what this is yet. What do you mean you have a whole business just doing cannabis?" So it was, I think, a strange concept to most CPAs. And just as a point of reference at the time, Sonia, there was not many CPAs in the industry. There was a lot of bookkeepers or tax preparers, what I'll call unlicensed professionals. So
Mm-hmm.
they're not adhering to the same standards and requirements that CPAs do. So it was like really breaking in. I was like, gosh, they need so much help. The operators, the cannabis operators
Yeah.
needed so much help and they weren't getting the right quality of service or frankly even the right type of service from these providers. Again, no knock on them because everything was all new, but it was a different level of standard of service that we brought to the table.
So the next part was don't pardon the pun, but it's about the burn, right?
Yeah, I love it.
So I mean, going into this new venture, like I said, you were risking everything, your livelihood, your reputation, all of that. You came from very high corporate boardrooms. How did you get through some of those challenges in those early days of being the cannabis CPA?
I think I've known challenge my whole life. I don't know. I think anything else. Again, we came from very humble beginnings. I worked from the earliest ages that I could remember. Being, older sister to 6 younger siblings was also not easy.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say I had to grow up sooner than I should have.
Well, you're doing audits at 15, so that was pretty early.
Yeah, you're right. But all of that really shaped me in how I handle challenges, even to the day. I know that everything is surpassable. Everything has a solution. And you have to push through that hard part. I think that's where most people give up.
Yeah.
Because it's very uncomfortable for them. And it's scary and it's a whole lot of emotions. I have some conditioning. And so that's really, I think, one of those things that's gotten me through it. And I'll always remember something my mom said to us as kids. She would say, querer es poder. And what that translates to is, if you want it, you can do it.
That's beautiful.
And so there was not a ton of like, oh, I can't do this at my house.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of space for that. And really what you'd hear back is like, tell me why you can't do it, and I'm going to tell you 5 reasons you can. And so that coming from my parents who had their own journey of resilience and challenge, in coming here with nothing and then having 10 stores, it just, they fed it back to us. And so that really is what I'll always keep. And frankly, like now that I'm older, I can really appreciate their struggle and what they had to endure, like leaving family, coming to a whole new country, not knowing the language. They didn't know anybody because most of my family is in Mexico. But my mom was like, I'm going. I want to know what it is, and I want to be and carve my own path.
Wow.
So that will always bring me back to like, okay, I know English. I have a couple degrees behind me.
Yes.
I have an amazing network of friends and individuals that just support me. I'm pretty sure we can figure the challenges out. And I have a saying too, like I move like the water. You got to be fluid, because I think, that there is no like direct line. It's not a direct pathway.
Right.
You know that.
Yeah.
It's like this. It's like a squiggly line, and you fall and you come up. And so I think just even knowing that at some point what comes down must go up and so on, just gives you a sense of like, it's a timing thing. I gotta just push through this part.
Yes, I think so. And that's one of the things I always say as well, is like, I've been to the bottom, I've been to the top. At least I know I'm never going to stay at the bottom. I'm just going to push through, right? And you always make it back out. So I think that, and I think you seek challenges. I think most of us seek challenges because that means that we're growing.
Absolutely. I get that question a lot in other conversations or other presentations. Like, how do you do it?
Yeah.
How do you get through it? And how do you kind of come on the other side? I always tell people, like, you have to remember that it's supposed to feel difficult.
Yeah.
That's the other side of growth. It's supposed to feel hard. It's supposed to feel a little scary.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just stagnant.
Right.
We're just status quo. You're not really growing. You're not really learning. And I thrive, I think, in that space.
You have. Because not only on the cannabis side, but also how high you've raised as a Latina woman. You had to be like some of the only people in those boardrooms telling everybody else what to do. How did you navigate that? And finding your voice and that seat at the table?
That has been a journey. And it frankly still is. I'm still learning how to do that in different rooms and different spaces. But I would say it was in my early 30s where I really started to find my voice and feel that confidence in what I brought to the table. One of my early, uh, maybe sad stories in public accounting when I first started, I remember specifically being called to a large client meeting. So it was several folks from the firm, and we're all in this huge conference room. And one of the client team members asks me where the coffee is. I was the only Latina in the room, and I was dressed professional, just like all of my other colleagues. And so I always wondered why they asked me where the coffee was. I never could quite pinpoint it
Yeah.
because there was a lot of other people in the room. So that just kind of stayed with me. I knew that even as I walked into rooms, there was a stigma immediately about me and who I was. And it's all dependent on people's backgrounds and beliefs and, how they see other people. But it took me a while to figure that out, that instance had nothing to do with me and had everything to do with the other person.
That's a great piece of advice, because that is a challenge. I hear it from so many women. Actually, one of my last guests asked her, it's
Yeah.
like, get me a cup of coffee type thing, and it's like, so yeah, not using it as a bitterness or a holdback, right?
No, it's an opportunity for growth. Again, it's uncomfortable. It's one
Yeah.
of those uncomfortable things. And that one I dealt with for 10 years,
Wow.
right? So that was really early on in my early 20s. And it wasn't until my early 30s where I came to the conclusion that, again, that had nothing to do with me. It had
Right.
everything to do with the other person. And the confidence in what I then had to bring to the table and the value that I brought, I was certain in that. And there was nothing anyone was going to say or do to take that from me.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Nobody was going to take that from you.
Yeah.
That's great. That is really good.
Yeah.
So tell me also too about growing up in the South Side of Chicago and what you saw that really kind of more the social justice, I guess, of like the war on drugs. I mean, I think a lot of people haven't seen, um, there's a documentary that was so great about like showing how some of the first laws against cannabis
Yeah.
were really aimed at minorities, right?
Yeah.
Very purposely aimed at minorities. And that was a big part of you grew up with. How did you kind of figure out how to take that and make it into a positive to some extent,
Yeah.
or to kind of fight that fight?
The neighborhood I grew up with was, and still is, ravaged by, gang and some gang violence. In the early 90s, that neighborhood was the hub for El Chapo. That
Wow.
was his area of influence in terms of trafficking into the US. So I lived my, teens and even earlier than that, just kind of seeing that impact it had on our neighborhood. While it was full of culture and full of community and a lot of great tradition, the neighborhood too was stigmatized because of the narco trafficking that was happening specifically and the violence that came from that. I'm the second of eight, as I mentioned, and one of my younger brothers had a lot of issues with the law. I mean, he was incarcerated for possession of marijuana, and along with friends and other neighborhood folks, kind of did the same. We all kind of either went to jail or you were killed. So it
Wow.
was a little bit tough kind of growing up. I think all of that, though, I knew that I also needed to use my voice and amplify what was happening there and solutions to fix it. I think along with entrepreneurship, advocacy has been like coursing through my veins pretty early on. I remember specifically one time coming home from college. I went to Southern Illinois. So I moved away from Chicago to go to school. But I came home for a summer. And every summer, my mom hosts the annual block party on our block. And I was there, and it was getting late at night, and we had some police that were coming through, just kind of being overly aggressive, in my opinion. I understand now that they were trying to ensure that there was no, violence or after party activity, but it was still more than what they should have done. And at this point, I had already taken business law in college, so I had some understanding of, just the fundamentals of our rights.
Right.
Just that, our fundamental rights as citizens, as humans, that we should, abide by and respect. And so it was in that instance where their aggressiveness, I was like, hey, hold on. This is our property. You can't really do that. We're not really doing anything. And they, were kind of puffing their chest, and I started puffing my chest because I knew without a doubt what our rights were at that time. They couldn't tell me otherwise. They were just saying all these things. I was like, no, that's not true. We can do A, B, and C. Long story short, I think it was at that time too where I was like, people are scared. I go back to the same thing. It's a scary thing to deal with law enforcement where you maybe don't know all of your rights. And so I really want to lean into those spaces of advocacy, particularly in areas where the war on drugs has impacted Black and Brown communities for decades now.
Yes.
Decades. And so, again, it's that purpose, passion. You talked about it earlier. I feel like I'm doing all of those things that I'm called to do through the work that I'm doing now.
Yes.
I couldn't have planned it better.
No, I definitely think you are the epitome of when passion meets purpose. I can't believe that you took on auditors at 15 and like the police force at like what, probably 18 or 19?
I was 19. Yeah. So,
but it's so brave, and so where you use your wisdom and your skills to really help others and help advocate for them. I think that's so important.
If I could change one life, Sonya, I've done a lot. And so I hope that in my lifetime I can touch several lives and change the course in a positive way.
Oh, I'm sure you have changed so many lives in your lifetime. I know that you have, and you continue to, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So that was a perfect segue actually to today's burning question, which I think you don't have to have the answer, but cannabis legalization was supposed to right the wrongs of the war of drugs, just as you discussed. But today, only 2% of businesses in the cannabis industry are minority owned, right? Of a $26 billion business, and only 2%. And only 19% of executives are women. And Black Americans are still 3.6 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana, despite all the legalization and gains that we've made. So if the people most harmed by the prohibition are being left out of the profits, where is their equality? Or what does equality really mean in this space?
Wow. Yeah, that is the burning question. In the last decade, Sonya, since we've seen state use legalization, because it's taken on a state by state level, and every state is putting their own laws and regulations into place, there's a huge disparity.
Huge.
In how even the states define equality. There is a term in cannabis called social equity. And states, as they've legalized, have done their best to provide social equity to those most harmed by the war on drugs. And that looks different in every state. Is it fair? Probably not. Is there a better way? I'm sure that there is. But I'm not sure we're going to see any of that until we see federal legalization. And even then, I'm not sure how much more gains based on those statistics that you read off we're actually going to see. Because that statistic of 2% Latina owned, I believe, businesses, that's the same percentage of Latinas that get VC funding now.
Yes.
Right? And that's outside of cannabis.
Yes.
So I appreciate the question, because you're right. The people most harmed by the war on drugs have been Black and brown communities across the US. And we're not seeing that equalization now as the industry has become legal. But that is also very similar to the broader economy and broader businesses that we see.
Yes.
There's still lack of funding for minority and women-owned businesses, even more so for minority women specifically. And that's just challenging.
Yes.
And so I think for me, it's like, how do we change the overall narrative, the broader narrative of, supporting Latina, Latino, Black, minority, underrepresented communities in every space that we're in. Cannabis is a great example of hopefully doing that, right? Because they're, again, as I mentioned, the communities most harmed have been Black and brown. And so here we have what I think could be a great pilot for us making a change on a grander level,
Yes. And like I said, the cannabis industry, where they've legalized it, it's done great things for the states. I mean, you look at Nevada, I mean, like, I think, so I would say, like, all these roads, that's all basically paid for by the cannabis industry, the schools, all the money has come back in. But yeah, we're not seeing it. And you're right about the statistics. It's 2% for women, but I think that the statistic is 0.4% for minority women to get funding in anything.
Again, it's a hard statistic to look at.
Yeah.
And cannabis is more challenged, again, because it's still federally legal. So it's not like a cannabis operator can go to a traditional bank and ask for a loan. They can't get an SBA loan. They can't get those types of financing deals. So that adds to that complexity in terms of minorities being a part of the industry at the ownership level.
Mm-hmm.
But the social equity programs have evolved over the years. They are getting better than the initial ones, I would say. We just still have a lot of work to do. That's the reality. And the easiest way to make a change there is to fund a minority, a Latina, Latino, Black, brown owned cannabis business. You want to see more of those in our communities? Fund them. Fund them. Let's put money and support them in their business operations.
Yes.
So that's how we're going to change the statistic. It's very challenging to go to state regulators and have them do that work for us.
Right.
So
it's the consumers and it's investors and
Absolutely.
It's like, yeah, that need to get more involved.
On the consumer side, support the people that look like that, right? That's, again, how we continue to develop these businesses. But, I've done a lot of work with this particular group of folks. I was previously on the board for the Minority Cannabis Business Association, which is a national nonprofit organization established to cater to minorities and, again, underrepresented communities. Is really what it is.
Yeah.
And that was a true passion. I've done a lot of education for, again, folks that may not know how to run a business. They know a lot about weed, They know how to sell it. They know how to grow it. But they don't have the business acumen it takes to run a multi-million-dollar, heavily regulated business. And
Right.
that's where I come in. It's been, again, a complete joy working with these folks, and at some time seeing sort of like the aha moment that they have. In other cases, seeing them grow from stage one to stage two in another business. So it really is a great group of folks. And this is where, again, more funding is needed
More
for sure.
funding and more people like you that have all the brains behind it to teach them all these things too. I mean, yeah, you really did find your passion and purpose to helping your community in a much more broader way,
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm part of a couple groups within cannabis, so a lot of subgroups like Latinas in cannabis, for example. A lot of great work there, just really bringing the Latina sisterhood together, and finding our space and our voices there. I always say it's about collaboration, not competition.
Right.
Together we are stronger. And so, even bringing folks from across different states, across different, origin lines, different background stories, all of that, I think it's bringing them together, and that's where the magic is.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I think that that's beautiful. And you're very right. It's like building these communities and building these ladders and teaching others and
Yeah.
stuff is great.
The last thing maybe I'll add to that is where we have some power is in the advocacy side, right? We
Hmm.
got to advocate for law changes and um, additional training on the law enforcement side so that we hopefully see some more fair play,
Right.
so to speak, in the way our law enforcement community views cannabis. And
In the communities in which they go into.
that's right. I
Yeah,
mean, it's racial profiling. I mean, let's just
for
call it
sure.
what it is. And so there's a lot of education that's still needed there, because it's no longer about the plant. It's
Right.
no longer about the drug or the possession of this plant. It is truly about racial profiling and what's happening there. The fact that Black and brown men are arrested at a much, much higher rate than their counterpart, um, in a state where cannabis is legal is not okay anymore. It's not something we should even settle for. It's that pushback, it's the advocacy part, and coming back to the community and speaking on those types of issues.
Yeah, it's sad that it's still happening in this day and age, and especially like I said, with all the work that's been done for legalization, but still it's affecting, you know, our Black and brown community. So how else can people advocate or work towards it?
Yeah, talk to your local, legislators. It really is about being vocal on issues that you see are not right, or you want to act on, and making sure that they know what those are. Again, I'm still pretty vocal in those spaces and making sure that both our legislators and the regulators understand the dynamics of a culturally diverse industry and what that means and what they need to do in order for us to accomplish that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you enough again how lucky they are to have you on their side.
Oh, thank
I don't
you.
want to come up agagot you as an auditor or a police officer or even in a debate. I can only imagine that you have so much knowledge that it would just blow them away.
We got to shut it down. We got to shut it down.
So, Jessica, you do so much for others. You're an advocate, you're an entrepreneur, you are a fighter for your community. How do you keep your flame burning? Like, what are some ways that you recharge?
Um, Family's really important to me. Um, and we're kind of a family divided in that we're in different spaces. My mom and half of my siblings are still in Chicago. The other half are over here on the West Coast. And then, as I mentioned, most of my family is still in Mexico. So I really do try to lean into just making sure we have some family time, family vacations, certainly the holidays, I know that can be crazy for some people where they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oof, I got to see the whole family, at Thanksgiving." But I really find I look forward to those holidays. It was always a busy house growing up. It was,
Imagine with 8 siblings.
yeah. So then it was like maybe not so fun. It was very noisy, very loud. But now getting back with my siblings and all of our children, and my mom's now a great grandma. That is just the absolute best feeling. So
Yes.
I get a lot of joy in recharging with family. I also get a lot of joy in entertainment here in the city. We are season Raiders ticket holders, so we're enjoying that quite a bit, and we love to travel. So just kind of getting out and about. Oh, and I don't want to forget my two doggies. So Alfred and Bruce, they're just a joy and have been really great in the last couple years. They're both rescue dogs, and we find just a lot of happiness sharing some time with them. So
Oh, that's awesome. And I
yeah.
got to go to a Raiders game this week, and it was so fun. I mean, that crowd is amazing.
I'm
Yeah,
actually really happy we have sports here in Las Vegas
I
now.
know.
Because I'm from Chicago. It's a big sports city. I mean, I grew up during the Bulls era. So it was just, when I came here, I'm like, there's a big piece of me missing in
Yeah.
sports. And with five brothers, I'm a tomboy at heart. I grew up in sports. And so now that we have them here, it's a very fun time to just get out and go see that.
No, that is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
How big is your biggest Thanksgiving, Christmas celebration that you have now?
Oh gosh. So we went back home to Chicago last year for Thanksgiving, and it was easily like 30 of us, just family, like spouses, children. And we had a few couple, family friends visit us. All in all, I mean, I think we've easily hit like 50 people in that um, gathering
Oh my
last
gosh.
year.
How'd you have enough tables? You just have to keep on.
We had to make do with some tables that we had there, but it is about community. I think it goes back to the Latino um, culture that we have. We are about community. Family is at the core of all of that. Family and food. And so yeah, it always takes me back to my roots, and it's my happy place.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love, like I said, how much you still embrace your culture and make it very much a community everywhere you go.
Sonia, I learned too, I think maybe a decade or so ago, in that epiphany of finding myself and my voice and my confidence, that I realized there's not a lot of people that look like me. And so it's almost like a mission to show up in rooms and spaces so that if there is another person that looks like me, they can identify, right, with someone that understands them, and is just a natural support in the room, right? Representation absolutely matters,
Yes.
and it's important to, now that I have, this voice and this level of confidence, to be that guiding post for others.
You are. You're very inspiring. Extremely.
Thank you.
Like I said, Jessica, you have touched so many lives and every single area of your work and stuff, not just in the cannabis industry, but with professionals, with your two daughters, and with the Latina population and the community. But this is the most important part of Spark Sessions, is passing the torch. So I guess first
Oh.
is, what do you want your legacy to be? And what do you think is the most important advice that you can give to the next generation coming up after you?
Oh, wow. Okay. So the legacy I've kind of been thinking about more and more
Mm-hmm.
in the last couple of years. Getting older. And so that just, I think, naturally brings maybe some of those thoughts to me. Um, my legacy would be for every underrepresented uh, minority, woman, any community that feels like underrepresented, like the room does not look like them, that they're there for a reason, that they got to lean into the room. You got to really show who you are and what your purpose is in that room, even when it feels uncomfortable and scary and maybe not clear at the time. But again, I just remember back to that young girl in her early 20s trying to figure it all out and not feeling like I was part of the room. Like
Right.
I felt like an outsider. And so the legacy for me is to, empower and guide and mentor people. If they happen to be Latinas, that's fantastic. But in general, I think, again, underrepresented communities of people that don't feel like they belong. And that I think is just so powerful,
Yes.
particularly in those spaces where maybe there's no one else that looks like you.
Right.
And so my legacy is that I see that with my two young daughters now. They were fierce from kind of day one. But even more so now as they're entering their early 20s and what will be their career. Just really, helping them find that voice, that confidence sooner rather than later. That's what I hope I leave as a legacy.
No, you will definitely leave that legacy. Your legacy is very much shining bright. I think I also read something you had a quote on that if you feel like you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Find another one so you grow. And I think that was so beautiful, and that does describe you.
That was advice I got from an early mentor early in my career. He saw something in me that I didn't. And his name is Ken. And he's like, I could see you. You have a lot, a lot to give, a lot to learn. And he just really just said it so casually that if I had not paid attention, it's one of those things you would have missed and kind of kept going. But I'll never forget that. He's like, if you are the smartest person in the room, you need to leave immediately. You don't belong there. You need to go to another room where you're learning, where you're not the smartest person, where you're asking questions, where the topics of conversation bring curiosity to whatever it is that's being discussed. And those are powerful message. I still share his word to the day, as you heard. Yeah, it's a quote that I say often, because you're not growing if you're in the same room where you feel comfortable. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that's one of the things I do tell my mentees just constantly, which is like, querer es poder. Bringing back to like my mom, if you want it, you can do it, you can will it. And when it feels hard, when it feels overwhelming, when it feels scary, just remember that that is you growing. It's supposed to feel that way. And you gotta kind of lean into it so you can get on the other side of it.
That's such a beautiful saying and beautiful advice. So thank you for that. Okay, so now for something fun. This is my favorite part, is the fire round. Okay, first thing that comes to your mind, no thinking about it. It's just super simple. You can't have a wrong answer. Okay.
Love it.
One thing you always keep in your bag.
Lipstick.
Dream dinner guest, living or dead?
Oh, Michael Jordan.
Oh, yeah, you are a Bulls fan. Coffee, tea, or cocktails?
Coffee.
Okay. In one word, the quality you value most in a leader?
Authenticity.
That's a good one. Morning person or night owl?
Night owl.
Favorite place in Vegas?
Oof. The Cosmopolitan.
Favorite travel destination you've been to?
I'm gonna go with Puerto Vallarta.
I want to go there. I have not been there. Your guilty pleasure?
Chocolate.
Last show you binge watched?
Adolescence.
Oh, that's a
which
good
just won a bazillion Emmys, I think, in this last award show. So
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
Okay, your leadership superpower, or if you could choose one superpower, what would it be?
Read people's mind.
Oh, that would be a good one.
Yeah, I get ahead of it.
Yeah.
I get
And
ahead
a
of the
very,
answer.
very important question. Indica or sativa?
Indica, baby.
Yeah. All right. Final question. And I ask every guest this. What is your one truth? The one spark that keeps you going through life day after day?
Oh, there's a lot of answers to that. But if I had to pick the one, I come back to family just kind of through and through. They really are like the fire in the belly. They're everything to me. My children, my mom, brothers, sisters, siblings, and even friends that have become family along the way. I do think that that's important. At the end of the day, when all is said and done, and I come to my resting place, I know that family is there.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so, so very much for being here. You are absolutely brilliant. I've loved everything you say, and I just love your spirit. So
thank you, Sonya.
Looking forward to the next time in Vegas.
Absolutely. We got that date night.
Thank you for tuning into Spark Sessions. Until next time, keep the fire burning.